The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the pasture as she guided the sheep back toward the fence, sitting tall on the horse like she had done 1,000 times before, calm, practiced, alone. The farm still answered to her hands, even after everything else had fallen apart. Dust clung to her boots, the air smelled of grass and animals, and for a moment life felt contained, predictable. Then a car pulled up where cars rarely stopped. He stood there awkwardly, city clean, hands unsure of where to rest, carrying years he hadn't unpacked. He no longer smelled of hay or leather. Instead, there was coffee on his jacket, faint and warm, the scent of a life rebuilt somewhere far from these fields. He said little, like someone visiting a place that no longer belonged to him. Their daughter ran to him first, arms tight, familiar, as if no time had passed at all. Inside the house, words stayed careful. He hovered near the door, habit etched into his posture, ready to leave before being asked. She noticed, of course. She always did. The kitchen felt smaller with him in it, filled with memories that refused to line up neatly. No one mentioned why he left the land for the city, why the marriage cracked instead of breaking clean. Those reasons stayed buried, untouched, heavier than any spoken argument. As evening crept closer, plates were half prepared, light faded through the window, and the quiet thickened into something fragile. Then, their daughter, swinging her legs from the chair, broke it without meaning to. She looked at her mother, then at her father, and asked softly, almost casually, "Mom, can Dad stay until dinner?" The question didn't accuse or beg. It simply existed. And the room froze, not with anger, but with memories neither adult was prepared to face again. He stayed close to the door, coat still on, keys loosely trapped in his hand, his body angled outward as if he already knew how this visit would end. It was a posture learned over years. Arrive quietly, take up as little space as possible, leave before anyone had to ask. She noticed it immediately. From the kitchen, she watched him the way someone watches an old habit they thought they'd broken. He looked different now. Not hardened, not triumphant, just steadier. The kind of man who learned to stand on his own without announcing it. Her mind moved backward without permission, replaying moments she had sworn were settled. The nights he forgot things. The mornings he left too early. The arguments that never landed where they were meant to. But tangled inside those memories were others she tried harder to ignore. Him arriving late, exhausted, boots still dusty, refusing to sit until he checked on their daughter. Him holding her when she cried, even when they weren't speaking. Him showing up when it would have been easier not to. She had told herself for years that presence wasn't enough, that love needed structure, promises, a future that didn't feel so uncertain. Yet standing there now, watching him hesitate at the threshold of his former life, she felt something shift uncomfortably in her chest. He hadn't come back asking for anything. No explanations. No apologies. Just quiet, careful steps, like a man afraid that one wrong move would send him back to a life where he only existed in memory. Their daughter watched them both, sensing the weight between them without understanding it. And in that moment, she realized something unsettling. The man near the door wasn't trying to re-enter her life. He was trying not to disrupt it. He moved through the house, like someone borrowing space, never assuming permission. When she reached for plates, he was already there, setting them down gently, aligning the forks without clatter. He fixed a loose cabinet hinge without mentioning it, tightened a chair leg that had wobbled for years. Every action was careful, measured, as if crossing an invisible line might undo the fragile calm holding the evening together. She watched him from a distance, pretending to focus on the stove. It unsettled her, not the help itself, but how natural it looked. No performance. No expectation of praise. Just quiet competence. That scared her more than his past failures ever had. Stability could be rehearsed, she knew. Safety was harder to prove. When he offered to make coffee, she almost refused out of habit. But she didn't. He moved with ease, hands confident, grinding beans by feel, adjusting water temperature without checking anything twice. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and grounding. Their daughter leaned closer, smiling. "Dad makes it better," she said simply, like it was a known fact. He smiled at that but said nothing, pouring carefully, passing the cup to his ex-wife first. She took a sip before she could stop herself. It was good. Not just good, familiar in a way she hadn't expected. The kind of care that came from repetition, from learning how to do one thing well because people depended on it. Dinner stretched longer than planned. Conversation stayed light, safe. He listened more than he spoke, asking their daughter about school, about small things that mattered only to her. When the night deepened and the roads grew dark, she hesitated before offering the guest room. The words felt heavier than they should have. He accepted without relief, without surprise. The guest room still smelled faintly of old paint and folded linens. He set his bag down neatly, shoes aligned by the door, like he wasn't sure how long he'd be allowed to stay. Down the hall, she lay awake longer than usual, listening to the house breathe with another presence inside it. Morning came quietly. He was already up when she entered the kitchen, sleeves rolled, coffee brewing again. Not because he was asked, because he knew she would need it. The routine settled something inside her that had been restless for years. They shared the coffee in silence, not awkward, not intimate, just steady. She wondered briefly if this was what trust looked like when it stopped being loud, when it stopped demanding proof. But doubt followed quickly. She had trusted before. She had believed consistency meant permanence. Standing there now, she questioned whether this calm was real, or just another temporary alignment before life shifted again. Their daughter came in, rubbing her eyes, climbing onto a chair between them, like it was the most natural thing in the world. He reached for another cup. She didn't stop him. And as she watched him pour, unasked and unafraid, she realized the danger wasn't that he might leave again. It was that he might stay, and she wasn't sure she knew how to let him. Morning conversation stayed polite, careful, shaped by years of restraint. They spoke about weather, schedules, small plans for the day. Nothing sharp, nothing deep. Each sentence felt tested before being released, as if either of them might trip a wire buried long ago. Their daughter filled the gaps easily, unaware of how much silence she was protecting. He noticed it first, the distance wrapped inside courtesy, the way she thanked him for things that once required no words, the way she avoided his eyes when a memory threatened to surface. Staying longer felt dangerous, not for him, but for their daughter. Hope, once planted, had a way of growing faster than truth. She felt it too. His presence was calm, grounding, but fragile. She had built her life carefully after the divorce, piece by piece, learning how to carry responsibility alone without resentment. Letting him stay, even briefly, felt like loosening a structure she had spent years reinforcing. Emotional balance, once earned, could be lost quietly. They worked around each other in the house without colliding. He fixed a latch on the gate outside. She reorganized a drawer that didn't need it, both pretending to stay busy, avoiding the weight of stillness. The farm moved at its own pace, indifferent to human hesitation. When neighbors passed, she felt herself straighten, bracing for questions that never came. He sensed it and stepped back, positioning himself just out of view. The old instinct returned easily, to protect her space by shrinking his own. That realization unsettled him more than distance ever had. Later, while their daughter played nearby, he mentioned returning to the city that evening. Not as a decision, but as a possibility. The words hung between them. She nodded too quickly. Relief and disappointment collided inside her, indistinguishable. This was safer. Temporary always was. She told herself this was how grown people handled the past, with restraint, boundaries, maturity. But when she watched him explain something simple to their daughter, patient and attentive, a quiet ache surfaced. Balance, she realized, wasn't the same as peace. He lay awake that night in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle again. Staying longer felt selfish. Leaving felt unfinished. He wondered which choice would hurt less, the slow erosion of distance or the sharp cut of goodbye. In the early morning, she found him at the table, coffee untouched, lost in thought. For a moment, she considered sitting down, asking the questions she had buried. Instead, she spoke about errands, plans, safe things. He followed her lead. As the day moved forward, both sensed the same truth forming quietly between them. Avoiding pain had become their shared language. And neither of them knew how much longer that language could hold, especially with their daughter listening so closely. Their daughter felt it before either adult admitted it existed. The pauses between sentences. The way laughter stopped too quickly. The way both parents smiled at the same time, but not at each other. She didn't have words for tension, only instincts sharpened by watching closely. She began clinging to small moments, stretching them longer than necessary. Breakfast took more time because she asked questions she already knew the answers to. Shoes took longer to tie. Stories needed one more page. Anything to keep them in the same room a little longer. When they laughed together, rare, brief, accidental, she lit up instantly, eyes bright, body leaning forward, as if she could hold the sound in place by sheer will. Those moments felt like proof to her, evidence that something important still existed if everyone stayed still enough. He noticed how often she reached for his hand now, how she positioned herself between them without thinking. It wasn't manipulation. It was alignment. She was arranging the world the only way she knew how, using closeness as glue. She noticed, too, the way their daughter watched them instead of her toys. The way she repeated old routines, setting 3 cups on the counter, saving the middle seat on the couch. Things she must have learned years ago and never forgot. Silence became louder than words. What they didn't say echoed in the way their daughter filled the space for them, narrating ordinary moments like they were fragile. Both parents realized she was reading everything, the glances, the pauses, the exits. He felt a quiet guilt settle in. He had left once believing distance would hurt less than conflict. Now he wondered if silence was teaching her something worse, that love was careful, conditional, easily withdrawn. She felt it from the other side. She had taught herself to be strong, self-contained, emotionally efficient. Watching her daughter now, she wondered what that strength looked like through a child's eyes. Independence or abandonment dressed politely. The realization arrived slowly but firmly. Their restraint wasn't neutral. It was instructive. Every avoided conversation was becoming a lesson. Every careful boundary was shaping her understanding of connection, closeness, and fear. That afternoon, their daughter insisted they all walk together to the edge of the field. She ran ahead, then stopped, waiting until both were beside her before moving again. Neither parent missed the meaning this time. As the sun lowered and shadows stretched long across the grass, they exchanged a look they hadn't shared in years, one of shared responsibility, not for the past, but for what their silence might be quietly teaching her next. The confession didn't come all at once. It slipped out in fragments, the way truth often does when it's been held too long. They were alone in the kitchen, the house quiet, their daughter asleep down the hall. He mentioned, almost casually, that he hadn't dated in years. Not seriously. Not in a way that lasted. She nodded, unsurprised, then hesitated before admitting the same. There had been chances. People who stayed kind, patient, interested. But she always found a reason to step back. Timing. Distance. her daughter. Reasons that sounded responsible enough to silence further questions. The air shifted between them. Not heavy, not dramatic. Just honest. He explained that every time something began to feel real, he pictured their daughter trying to understand a new name, a new face, a new version of family. He chose distance instead. It felt safer. She confessed that she had done the same, though she had framed it differently in her own mind. She called it independence, stability, control. But listening to him, she recognized the truth beneath it. Fear had worn a practical disguise. They sat with that realization longer than expected. Years of emotional restraint suddenly rearranged themselves into a different shape. It wasn't that they had moved on and circled back. It was that neither of them had truly moved forward at all. Life hadn't been empty. It had been functional. Days filled, responsibilities met, routines perfected. But something essential had been placed on pause, quietly, deliberately, without anyone naming it. He admitted he thought staying unattached was a form of protection, for their daughter, for himself, for everyone involved. She admitted she believed strength meant not needing anyone again. Both realized those beliefs had kept them suspended in place. The irony settled slowly. They had worked so hard to avoid confusing their daughter that they might have taught her something else entirely. That connection was risky enough to avoid altogether. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling deeply, as if releasing a weight she hadn't known she carried. He looked down at his hands, steady, familiar, unchanged. The space between them felt different now. Not smaller, clearer. For the first time since he arrived, neither of them felt the need to rush the moment. No one moved toward the door. No one checked the time. They simply stayed where they were, acknowledging that what they had called independence might have been waiting all along. And just as that truth settled between them, a quiet sound came from the hallway. Bare feet on wood, small and careful, signaling that the one person they had tried so hard to protect was about to enter the conversation herself. The daughter feels the change before either adult names it. She senses it in the way voices soften when she enters the room, and how both parents pause, watching her too closely, as if afraid of saying the wrong thing. Children notice shifts like weather, not logic. She adjusts instinctively, leaning into small joys to keep the air from breaking. She suggests simple things. Pancakes for breakfast, even though it isn't Sunday. A walk to check on the fence. A board game she hasn't played in years. None of it is dramatic. That's the point. She builds normalcy piece by piece, like placing stones across a river, hoping the adults will follow without realizing they're crossing something fragile. Her laughter comes easier now, and that scares them both. He worries she's attaching meaning where none exists. She worries the same. Hope, once invited in, is difficult to escort back out without damage. They exchange looks across the table, silent negotiations happening in their eyes, while their daughter chatters about school and a book she's reading. At night, the girl insists on saying goodnight to both of them. She hugs her mother first, then her father, holding on a second longer than usual. He feels it, the unspoken request in the weight of her arms. Not a demand. A question. Are you still here when I wake up? The mother lies awake later, replaying the evening. She realizes how carefully her daughter orchestrated it all. The pauses, the togetherness, the way she kept them in the same room. It wasn't manipulation. It was instinctive repair, the way children try to mend what they didn't break but live inside. In the morning, the daughter wakes early and crawls into the guest room, sitting on the edge of the bed, while her father is still half asleep. She talks about nothing important. Dreams. A bird she saw yesterday. The comfort of his presence does the work words can't. Both parents begin to understand the same uncomfortable truth. Their silence isn't neutral. It teaches. It models distance as safety, restraint as love, absence as normal. The daughter is learning from what they avoid as much as from what they show. At breakfast, she reaches for both their hands at once, linking them without ceremony. No announcement. No speech. Just a child anchoring herself between two people she loves, daring them to notice. Neither pulls away. And in that still moment, both realize the tension they've been managing isn't protecting their daughter. It's confusing her. That night, as the house quiets, the mother hears her daughter whisper from the hallway, asking if Dad is staying again tomorrow. The question isn't innocent anymore. It carries weight. And neither adult knows how long they can keep pretending not to hear it. Evening settled gently, without ceremony. The kind of quiet that arrives when nothing is being forced anymore. She stood by the sink longer than necessary, drying a cup that was already dry, listening to the low sounds of the house winding down. He waited near the table, not by the door this time, unsure of whether the shift meant anything or nothing at all. Their daughter traced slow circles on the floor with her socked foot, calm in a way that felt earned. When she finally spoke, it wasn't rehearsed. It didn't sound brave. It sounded honest. "Do you want to stay for dinner every Friday?" The words hung there, simple and unprotected. He didn't answer right away. Not because he didn't want to, but because he understood the weight of what was being offered. Not reconciliation. Not promises. Rhythm. She met his eyes then, really met them, without defenses raised. In that look was something new, permission without pressure. He nodded once, quietly. The relief in their daughter's smile was immediate, unfiltered, as if something inside her had finally clicked into place. Fridays became anchors, then lunches when schedules allowed. Birthdays planned together without negotiation. Sundays that didn't need explaining. Nothing dramatic followed. No declarations. No rewriting of the past. Just presence, repeated until it stopped feeling fragile. The family didn't return to what it had been. It became something more truthful. A shape built from what they could actually give, not what they once promised. And in that honesty, something steadier than romance took root: belonging.